Hello, Internet. How are we this evening? I'm so glad you could join me. I have a very special guest tonight, and he probably doesn't know this, but he's the first big account that ever followed me, you guys. It was either him or Forrest Mommy, but I just remember being really excited when Alan Roberts followed me back. It was such an exciting experience, and I was so stoked about it. Funny thing is, it wasn't even on my account that blew up. It was on my old account. So I'm very pleased that he was gracious enough to join me tonight on my tiny little podcast. If you guys don't know who Alan is, he is a health coach, fitness and nutrition expert, life coach. I don't know if he would call himself a life coach. I would. Entrepreneur, podcaster. He's been featured in Fitness and Style magazine, and he's just an all-around good dude, and he doesn't take crap from anyone. I probably didn't do the greatest intro for him, but without further ado, here is Alan.
Well, that's a good intro, man. Like I don't normally get introed like that, but thanks very much, man. Pleasure to be here. Oh, cute puppy.
This is part of the routine. So at the beginning of the show, Scarlett has to jump up and say hi. So that's part of her thing. And then she goes and lays down. Go lay down right now.
Awesome sauce. You're slacking.
Come on.
My cat normally says hi, but she's slacking right now. So.
Oh, yeah.
But thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
No, dude, seriously, I wasn't exaggerating when I said that. You were like I've been following you for a long time, dude, since pre-COVID. And
I love how you called me a big account because I'm not like big, but thank you. I appreciate it. You know.
Well, what's funny is I came across you before I learned who Mark was. Mark, is it Lobliner? How do you pronounce the last name?
Lobliner.
I came across him through you. I learned
the traditional Jewish pronunciation. Yeah.
He is awesome, man. He's his wrestling background, just I'm a big fan of both you guys. So yeah, when you followed me back, it was actually a big deal for me. So so for my audience that doesn't know a lot about you, I would like to. You've got a very long background, obviously, but I sort of want to talk about your fitness journey. Like, so what? I know you went from a transformation. You were really big, like really into
I was close to 300. I was about 200, 280, 285 plus. Like, the plus is because I stopped weighing myself when I hit 280s.
Yeah, so I would love to give your backstory. Like, what started your fitness journey?
Well, I've been an athlete all my life, like all my life. And I always say this because, and it's not to brag, but like I'm pretty genetically gifted for being a pretty good like athlete. I was a state champion pole vaulter in high school. I went to nationals. I was a gymnast, and then I loved weightlifting. Started getting into weightlifting and I was in martial arts when I was very, very young. Started getting into weightlifting, and very strong. It always came very natural to me. I'm very gifted when it comes to recovery. Like my body recovers really well as long as I'm getting enough sleep, food, hydration. I can work out one day, next day do the same workout, not sore, anything. You know. Of course, as you get older, that goes by the wayside. As I got older, like into my 30s, I really started like wanting to be the strong guy in the gym. So I kind of ate, and I started having problems with like food, like really not being able to control how much I ate. About that time too, met my wife, got married. Didn't work out as much for a while because I was focusing on career. I went from working in like the nightclub restaurant business to working in healthcare, and I ran I worked my way up from being like a food service director to a corporate executive. I was the head of healthcare nutrition for a few companies that did nutrition everywhere from hiring the dietitians and the directors of nursing and the medical directors through the dietitians, dietetics, CNAs, even the kitchen staff for hospitals, long-term cares, assisted livings, and stuff like that throughout the world. I sat on a few committees to write disaster policies for entire counties in the United States, Allegheny County, Chemung, New York, a few others. I started, when I was doing that career, it was up and down the Eastern United States, and I really did not like travel. And my wife and our son was about to be out of high school. So she was already my wife's an incredible fitness instructor, yoga instructor. There's almost nothing she can't do. TRX, she's certified in so much. She's an amazingly intelligent woman. She's like the best fitness instructor that nobody's ever heard of because she doesn't really like social media, right? But we started talking about like, well, I could possibly powerlift. And as a kind of a joke, I was like, I could do YouTube. I'm kind of funny, like I got like the sarcastic humor. So I started a YouTube channel basically doing just fitness rants and lifting heavy weights, and that was actually kind of negative for me in lots of ways. It was very positive because it put us where we're at now. But because my whole shtick was being really strong, I just started eating like as much as I could, and my binge eating disorder had kind of convinced me that I needed to just keep eating and get it was perfectly acceptable to eat 10 McDoubles at a sitting, because it's just going to make me stronger. And then probably somewhere around 285, I all of a sudden I felt incredibly weak, incredibly tired, incredibly fatigued, having a hard time tying my shoes without holding my breath, hard time getting up a flight of stairs. And my wife kind of sat me down and said, like, hey, you're going to eat yourself to death. Don't you want to be with me forever? And that kind of changed my attitude. So with her help, we figured out a way to control my binge eating disorder. I've lost and kept off about 100 pounds for multiple years now. My last binge was January 17th of 2021. So almost 3 years, 2 years, 10 months, and 12 days right now since my last actual binge episode. And we've developed all sorts of, we have a coaching method. I've wrote multiple books about it. So the transformation was really just one, to get my health back. I promised my wife I'd be 90 years old holding her hand walking on the beach, and I got a little bit to go yet. So I'm old as fuck, but I got a little bit to go yet. So that's kind of the story on why I got healthy and where we're at now. I gave up kind of the whole fitness roasting comedy stuff. Don't get me wrong, I still try to be entertaining, but there's just so much other shit happening in the world that telling jokes about other fitness people just doesn't capture my interest like it used to,
I think you're funniest when you're roasting people when you're not trying to be funny. When you're actually,
I've heard that before. Yeah.
It's the greatest. Yeah. When somebody, it's the whole fat acceptance thing, which I want to get into, but when they trigger you, it's you speak so well off the cuff about it. And that's one of the reasons why I started following you. It was just, you make a lot of really good points just right off the top of your head about it's the whole fat acceptance thing. Yeah, we'll talk about that first. I want to talk about COVID, but we'll get into that. The whole fat acceptance thing is
it all works in together, actually.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we'll get into it. It's so it's a lot like anything else, like the whole trans thing. It's so absurd on its face that it's like, how are we even having this discussion that it's healthy to be fat? How did we get here?
Well, we're a nation of pussies for a big thing. Like most people, we care more about people's feelings nowadays than we do their actual health. And I think that that's disgusting. I actually personally think that I'm way nicer than any fat acceptance person to fat people. By me telling them the truth, I think I'm way nicer because I'm not going to lie to somebody's face and say they're okay when I know they're not, and also, just to be very frank, hi, sweetie. Here's my cat wanted to say, oh, no, she's running away. But to be very honest, I think that, the powers that be, the people that own our government, like the pharmaceutical industry and healthcare industry, because they own the government, they own the politicians, they own the advertising revenue, they own 75%. It's 75% of all ad revenue is from the healthcare pharmaceutical industry. It's insane. But they want you sick and fat. 40. You can look at 40 years ago. When I was younger, everybody in my if you didn't have abs, you were fat. If you were a high school boy and you didn't have abs, you were fat. For real. I'm not talking like the bodybuilder on stage abs where it's almost looks like airbrushed 3D, but everybody had a flat stomach and abs, and we actually had commercials like, can you pinch an inch, right? And right about in the 80s is when they started moving towards ultra processed foods and convenience foods and stuff like that. And that's when the USDA put out the food pyramid suggesting that we should have 6 to 11 servings of carbohydrates, including cereals, grains, breads, and stuff like that.
I was raised on that, dude.
Yeah. It's just that's where the whole like on face value ridiculousness started. Is that's ridiculous at face value, you know? Like
I didn't know any better.
Oh, and no, most people didn't. That's most people don't, you know, like, but also we live in a nation, like it's so crazy. Everybody has a smartphone in their hand. I'm a huge researcher. Like I read a study a day or two every day, like all the way through. And I make sure I understand it. I do the background. If I don't understand the concept in it, I go and do the background work on it and stuff like that. Right. And we just have a nation of idiots. Like everybody uses the entire wealth of world knowledge that you have in your hands with your smartphone, and they use it to basically like play video games and like, you know, look at porn. It's this incredible thing, and that's where I think it started.
Can I expand on what you just said a little bit there? Because that's you really touched on something there with all the stuff that happened the last 3 years, all of the stuff that was provable disinformation from the corporate press, from the media, from the government about COVID primarily. Mm-hmm. All of the stuff that the information was out there. It wasn't like if you wanted to look at it honestly and find out for yourself what was really going on, what the truth really was, you could find the answers, but nobody wanted to. And they had the power in the palm of their hand the whole time. Like,
well, COVID is a cold with $1 trillion marketing team. I mean,
I'm going to pull up one of your tweets right now because
go ahead.
You were on this.
If you're not following me on Twitter, follow me on Twitter. And anybody that ever wants to say like it's hindsight's 2020, I was calling this shit from day one, from literally from day one. March 13th, I got canceled for saying I'm not doing it. You know, like.
No, that's what I'm pulling up right now. You were absolutely calling it from day one, and you were. You were doing it the whole time in a way that was making me laugh, and I really appreciate that.
It was the most frustrating year of my life. It really was. It was just incredibly, incredibly frustrating.
Well, this is from December 23rd, 2020. So, I mean, this is a year into it, but you were way earlier than this, but how the fuck did they convince you lemmings to just lock down harder? You can't control the virus. How fucking stupid are you? And you were saying shit like this, like from the get-go. And I mean, I was one of those guys in the beginning was like, we just got to get through this, guys.
Here's the thing. I did have like kind of, because I've written, I'm not a doctor. I never claimed to be a doctor, but I can fucking read. Okay. And I worked in healthcare. So when you write disaster policies for like hospitals and stuff like that, you get pretty versed on, outbreak policy, and you get pretty versed on how like communicable diseases are transmitted, right? For instance, COVID's dangerous for elderly people, just like any cold is. Norovirus is 10 times more dangerous for like an assisted living or a skilled nursing facility than COVID is, because norovirus lives on doorknobs and shit. You know what I mean? Like COVID really doesn't. COVID is travels on aerosolized vapor, right? But it's by the time it was in multiple countries, it's around the world. To think that we got patient zero was just idiocy. Like people are like, oh, our first case recorded in the United States. Here's where it started. It started in New York. That's stupid. I mean, like to think like, oh, we happen to have the first person that has this cold, and like there's massive evidence. And I said it back then too. This cold has probably been in the United States since the early fall of 2019. So to lock down now goes against Forrest Curve. And for those of you that don't know what Forrest Curve is basically how waves of infection happen for communicable disease and viruses, right? So Farr's law basically says that we were peaking already in January, February, like April, like we were easily heading towards the peak. And the early ass data, because that's when I first heard about it in like December I started like reading about it, and I'm like, okay, if you look at what they're saying in China and then look what they're saying in Italy, it's old and fat people. It's so the high risk group are the people that normally do the dying, and I got so canceled. I got so many death threats from saying that very sentence. Like it's the people that do the dying, but it's true. Like the high risk group for any communicable virus, especially upper respiratory viruses, is always going to be elderly people and always going to be people with multiple immunocompromisations, which is normally obese people. And this was holding true. So all of a sudden they're like, everybody needs to lock down. Like, why? I'm not fucking scared. I wanted to get my natural immunity and get it over with, because that would have been the true thing. And at the very beginning, I was just like, I remember telling my wife, I was like, my wife was not buying it at fucking all. I was like, these people are panicking. She was like, this is deliberate. She was like on it, like right from the beginning. And then as soon as they started talking about curfews, I was like, oh shit, it's a power grab. And the one thing that I knew that solidified me, and I knew for sure, was that all of the public health officials in the United States, and I always have to use quotes because they don't know what the fuck they're doing. I could debate and destroy any of them with the knowledge I have in my head in a 5-minute notice on any live platform based off what they did in early 2020. I could devastate them, totally destroy them. And one of the reasons why I could do that is college kids. In early March, they announced that they were sending college kids home. Okay. So we already knew the high risk group. We already knew that it was elderly people and fat people, right? I had already noticed that they weren't telling fat people to try to get healthy. So I clearly know that it's on purpose. But the thing about college kids is all these college kids have probably been already either exposed or infected, right? So they probably had, since the virus had been in the United States since probably late fall, at the latest October of 2019, all these college kids that have been crawling all over each other. They've been doing what college kids do. They were crawling all over each other, basically, at their colleges. And then they went on spring break to crawl all over other people from other colleges who had been crawling all over other people. And then they went back to their college to crawl all over each other again after they crawled all over other people from other places. We're sending them back home to their middle-aged fat parents and elderly grandparents.
Right.
That's a dispersal method. At no point in time would anybody that knows anything about public health make that fucking call because it was just moronic. That is a dispersal method of taking very low-risk people who might be infected, that any of them turn symptomatic, they could then spread that back to the more compromised very compromised elderly people and the more compromised fat parent, and I just found it to be egregious. And because then here's the hardest part for me. Now they're killing people, okay? Because we're not trying to save anybody. And the 15 days to slow the spread literally wasn't to save anybody. It was to try to make sure the healthcare system didn't get overwhelmed, right? And
somehow it went from that to nobody can die from COVID.
Right. Well, the healthcare system was never going to overload anyway. People they were using that as a scare tactic too. Anybody that knows anything about staffing levels and percentages of occupancy knew that. Like that's why a lot of these doctors and a lot of these administrators and a lot of the healthcare people, that's why they're evil. They're evil. They knew better and they just lied. Like basically where they're like, oh my God, the ICUs are at 95% occupancy. First of all, that doesn't mean that 95% of the beds that they have are occupied. That means 95% of the beds that they have staffed are occupied. Okay. Because that's how occupancy works for hospitals. I've wrote these budgets myself, and they're designed to run between 95 and 105%, like at all times. I actually fired an administrator my last year in healthcare. I fired an administrator because he couldn't keep his hospital census up over 85. So I fired him because he was given multiple warnings, an action plan. I didn't want to, but the budget says run 92%. He ran 85% for like a long time. So he got fired. I just had to be I was the messenger. These things were made to run full. They don't build a hospital to try to have it be empty. And again, it's the occupancy is more about staffing levels, right? So they can manipulate that number. Like they can be like, well, it's 95% right now. Send a nurse home, we're at 105%. And that's true. Okay, that's 100% absolutely true. So I wasn't buying it, and I refused to bow down at the time. The YouTube channel, which was still Every Damn Day Fitness at the time, was cranking about 1,000 new subscribers a week or more. We were getting probably 3 million views a month. And I went on to the community tab on there and said, I hear that there's, it was May 13th, I think March 13th of 2020. And I said, I hear that there's, governors talking about curfews and things like that. And I said, the last I checked, the government's not my mom and I'm not 14, so fuck a curfew. And just remember, and I had never really spoken about politics or anything like that before on my channel, but I said, just remember that freedoms that are given away are no longer freedoms, they're privileges, and they normally have to be fought to get back. And that's where we're at. I still believe that. I don't believe that they're just going to give us up.
Did that blow up at that time? Did that get you canceled?
That got me canceled. Yeah. I mean, and the thing was, it wasn't even by the followers necessarily, because I had some pissed off people because people are stupid. But I don't want those people following me anyway. If you're that fucking dumb, I mean, and no offense to anybody that bought it, but to think that this virus was a world killer, you had to be super fucking stupid. Okay. So and realistically, and I say this all the time, this is another thing that got me canceled. By a very poor model from Oxford University, the Imperial University, the model that said that we were going to lose 2.5 million people in like 4 months, right? That if you did any history on the guy that did that, he had only done pig disease models on like models for pigs before, and he had a horrible track record of being very, very seriously off. But also, I stated that I don't care if it's 10 times that has nothing to do with my constitutional rights. The federal government does not have the authority to tell me I am not allowed to go someplace. They do not have the authority to tell me what I'm allowed to say. They do not have the authority to know what medical treatments I have. They do not have the authority to tell me what I need to wear on my face. They do not have the authority under any given fucking time. They do not have the constitutional authority. They draw their power from the Constitution. The Constitution allows that I have a right to privacy and that I have a right to fucking freely travel how I want to fucking travel. And I have a right to free speech. And the very second that they stopped doing that they stopped allowing that, I knew we were in very serious trouble. We are still in very serious trouble.
See, that should have sent off alarm bells for me. Let me walk you through my cognitive dissonance, because I think a lot of people had this too. I think a lot of people wanted to go home. I think a lot of people wanted to break from work, and they're willing to just sort of ignore what was happening because it was like, hey, I get a break from work. They're going to give stimmy checks out, and the thing for me that really just sort of like, wait, what's happening was the mask thing, because I'm an AV guy. So I've been crawling around under houses and in attics for 18 years. And
yeah, so you know it's bullshit.
Well, I have, and we had trainings on respirators and N95s. Like I'm crawling around in asbestos. You're under houses where there could be rat piss and like dangerous stuff, Yeah. And you learn, like one of the first things you learn is about particulates and what's smaller than the N95, and also how they need to be fitted to your face really well. You have to be clean shaven, and you just learn about them. So the first week, it seemed like everybody was on the same page. I mean, Gavin Newsom and Donald Trump were like kind of complimenting each other. Yeah. Fauci was saying, actually, he was saying that he was talking about the obesity thing. He was kind of talking, like they were saying the correct shit for like a week. And Fauci was even saying, no, you don't need to wear a mask. It might stop some of the schmutz. So what, he was doing all that thing.
It's an excellent Fauci. It's an excellent Fauci.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I've been working on it.
It's a very good one.
But then all of a sudden it changed. He flipped the script, and so that I was like, I kind of like this Fauci guy, and he went on with Steph Curry and did a podcast, and he was saying all the accurate stuff, and then as soon as he flipped the script and he was like, no, you guys should actually wear masks, I was like, wait, what? And that was very early on. That was probably 2-3 weeks in. All of a sudden he changed, and then he says, And the only reason I said that you shouldn't wear them is because I was fucking lying to you. Remember? Like, no, we just didn't want to have a mask shortage for the nurses. So I lied to you and told you that we didn't need them.
Right.
So that's when I lost all trust and things started going haywire for me.
Well, that's a good spot to choose, especially because at no point in time, like the thing I found to be amazing, since you know about this, I used to teach a class on how to properly don and doff a mask, right? Like there's a procedure for, personal protective wear for wearing a mask, right?
And 95s are one-time use for me.
Yeah.
It was like, if you take it off.
Yeah. Well, not only are they supposed to be one-time use, but you're supposed to, like in a hospital setting at least, or for communicable disease, you're supposed to sanitize your hands, get a clean mask, put it on your face, sanitize your hands again, not fucking touch it until you're ready to sanitize your hands, take it back off and sanitize your hands again and replace it with a fresh one, right? Not this whole, like we're literally watching Fauci pull his mask up and down. Like, and here's the biggest problem with that, people, and a lot of people didn't understand. The example that they were setting was actually also a dispersal method. It increases your chance of infection from communicable disease the more you touch a mask, especially like we had people were literally pulling a mask out of their pocket next to their penis, like, and putting it on their face and like to go in stores and shit like that. It was so ridiculously it's just so stupid, like I just couldn't get past it. And then also, and this works back, what you were wondering about the fat acceptance thing, it also works back into that. It's okay. So it's either on purpose in my mind at the time. I'm like, this is either on purpose or it's the greatest misstep in public health ever, right? Like somehow it's such a complete breakdown in public health because we should have been, everybody gets some sunlight, everybody gets some vitamin D, everybody make sure you work out, everybody should stop eating ultra processed foods because they're highly inflammatory and can cause inflammation in the lungs, and this is an upper respiratory virus. Everybody should get plenty of hydration, plenty of sleep. Don't panic. Everybody stay calm because stress causes anxiety. Anxiety causes cortisol levels. Cortisol levels lowers your immune system. Everybody this should have been the public health mantra. Every single public health official should have been talking about this. If you are at high risk, you should likely avoid crowds. You should make sure you keep yourself extremely healthy. And if you can change your situation, if you are morbidly obese, and that is one of the things that makes you high risk, we should be trying to have you escape this, right? Not one word, like not one word. And then it went on to the second year. Like by the second year, I'm like, they want people fatter, because that was also the same time where Cosmopolitan is releasing magazine covers saying this is healthy, and it's like this 350-pound chick, so it's like, okay, if you can't tell that they don't give a shit, like why should I have to stay in because other people are scared of this shit? Like technically by statistics, COVID was less deadly to me than my car, way less deadly to me than my car, way less deadly to me than sunstroke. It's like it's on like the same level of getting struck by lightning for somebody that's in my physical condition.
That's right? One of the very early on points I was making. I was like, yeah, so I'm an ultra marathon runner. I'm not a lifter. If you can't tell.
Yeah, but you're still an athlete.
Thank you.
You do shit I couldn't possibly do. That's for goddamn sure.
Yeah, but I'm weird. But the point is, like, it's not that it's super dangerous, but dude, you break your ankle 10 miles out on the trail, you're in trouble. Yeah. And or you I run on spots where if you fall off the cliff, you're going to die. Yeah. Like it's more risky than COVID. It was like, that was a super early on point that I was making. Right. Yeah.
So, and why was the government allowed to decide what risk we were allowed to have? Why was the government allowed to decide what businesses could stay open? Like if the local mom and pop hardware shop had to close, but Walmart could stay open. Why? Like, I mean, it was very I'm like, and my wife's like, well, they're consolidating money. They're making it so all the large companies have booming years and all the small businesses go out of business. And that's what happened. I mean, they closed gyms, and not only did they close gyms, but there's just been a concerted effort to paint fitness as dangerous in the last 3 years. And that's when they started pushing the toxic masculinity shit. Like,
you're starting to sound like a right-wing extremist, Alan.
But I'm here. Here's the fucked up thing. I'm a centrist. If anything, I'm a constitutionalist, right?
Well, not anymore, you ain't.
Well, according to them, no. But I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of the Republicans, because Republicans won't get rid of the Patriot Act. And the Patriot Act is one of the most incredibly unconstitutional pieces of legislature, and it was the catalyst for all this other bullshit. Very frankly, because it is just completely unconstitutional. It flies in the face of our right to privacy, and the only Republicans I believe are actually truly in it for the people are those that speak out against it, like Thomas Massey, Johnson, those sorts of people, right? But I have voted all Rand Paul. I like Rand Paul. I have voted up and down my entire life. I voted for Bush Senior over Clinton.
You didn't vote for Ross Perot?
Well, no, because at the time I was still kind of ignorant, but also, by my old definitions, basically, of what used to be classified as what would make a good president. If you look at Bush Senior was very different than Bush Junior. Bush Senior was head of the CIA, war hero, had been vice president. He was dramatically more qualified than Clinton, right? Clinton was the first president that should have told us there was an issue, because MTV got him elected, right? He basically went and played saxophone on MTV, that helped him out, right? And then I've voted for Democrats since then, and I voted for Trump this last time, and I talked with Mark the other day, we had a live, and I'll vote for Trump again, just because and not only will I vote for Trump again, but I believe that the entire Republican Party, conservatives, independents, any constitutionalists like myself, it's time for everybody to kind of put this shit down and stop worrying about Trump's getting the nomination, right? Period. And here's the thing: if anybody thinks that they're going to actually convict Trump and make it so he can't be on the ballot, there probably won't be an election. I think people are underestimating how shit will pop off if that happens.
You know Michael Malice?
Yeah.
Him and Roseanne have a running bet that there's not going to be an election in 2024.
If they convict Trump, I'm on their side. If they
get him off the ballot, if they get him off the ballot,
if they get him off the ballot, it's going to get super ugly, super fast. Mm-hmm. Just because that's not their. First of all, I'm not the biggest Donald Trump fan, but if you can't tell that they're coming after him in a very unconstitutional way, if they can do that to him, they can do it to anybody. And that's my point. It's time to get behind we need to pick a horse and get on message, right? Because the crazy elites, I don't even like calling them the left, because the left is just kind of, frankly, they're fucking crazies right now. And they're whirled into hysteria about Ukraine and Palestine and
the progressives,
LGBT and BLM and all, anything that they can get these people frenzied about is what they've got them going on. And they're always on message though. Dude, they didn't even allow there to be a nomination process, even though somebody said that they wanted to challenge Biden. Robert Kennedy Jr. said, I'm going to challenge you. They were like, no.
Well, Cornel West too, and he's on the left. He's a big figure. They're not even.
They're no. They're not even entertaining it, right? And frankly, they cheated the last two presidential elections anyway to pick their nominee. They screwed Bernie Sanders both times. The DNC did. You know what I mean? And and it's open, admitted, right? So they are on message, right? The thing I'm watching for right now is them replacing Biden with Newsom. So,
yeah, how are they going to do the old switcheroony? Yeah, it's gonna.
Oh, Biden's either going to throw a stroke or pass away or something. Dude, here's the thing. I worked in healthcare a long time, and I literally some of the buildings I ran were Alzheimer's facilities. I was saying he was cognitively impaired when he was running. Like he's clearly cognitively impaired. Like I don't even understand why we're having this debate. People are like, "Oh, he's fit for." Shut up. Just tell me you don't want Trump. You don't like Republicans. If the second somebody tries to pretend that they think Biden's doing a good job or that he is like intellectually there or anything like that, I just know you're full of shit. Like I don't even want to hear it out of you, because the very second you try to say, "Oh no, but I think Biden's doing a great job and he's so smart and he is literally like an Alzheimer's patient walking." Like
Did you see him the other night?
Clear.
Did you see him the other night on stage with the kids?
Oh, the kids, when he was talking about like, "Are you 17?" and the girl's like, "I'm 9."
Yeah,
like,
he gets squirreled by children. Yeah. It's horrifying. He's like Herbert the pervert from Family Guy. You want to guess how many Tylenol PMs I got in my pocket?
That's exactly what he's like.
He's so awful. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So okay, we got way off in the man.
Yeah. But that's what I do, dude. My ADHD takes us everywhere. So.
Well, no, that's
my apologies.
No. That's actually how I wanted this conversation to go. But I sort of want to reel it back into the fat acceptance thing, because all right. So here, let me. You get a really bad rap about the whole fat phobic, and you touched on this earlier, where people think that because there's this whole idea that if you think somebody should lose weight, not be obese, start living a healthy lifestyle, and you tell them that in sort of like a swift kick to the nuts kind of way, that you hate them, and that it's the exact opposite. People that are, and I think it took me a long time to get this, because I've also been an athlete all my life. I've been a baseball player and martial arts and all that. So I've never known what it's like to not be fit until I stopped being an athlete. And when I became fit again, because I was a shitbag for a long time, and then I became fit again. And it sort of clicked on me that, like, in my brain, that holy crap, there's people out there that have never felt what it's like to be fit. And a lot of us just want them to, like, if you could just transform into a fit body for one day, how your life would change, how you would look at everything differently, and nobody hates you. Nobody wants to make fun of you at all. Sorry, I know I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but like there's nothing that athletes and fit people, especially people that have gone through transformations, like to see more than somebody that's overweight out there getting after it. And so I guess my question would be, if you talk about Lizzo a lot, but if Lizzo was to DM you all of a sudden and be like, "You know what, Alan, I'm sick of this. I don't want to live like this anymore," I'd be willing to bet you'd drop everything to help Lizzo. Is that an accurate statement?
Well, first of all, Lizzo is an abjectly horrible person, and I've said it for years. It's not because she's fat. She's a horrible fucking person. Like, if you pay attention to her, she's abject, like, just without a doubt in my mind. Well, no, way before that. She's horrible. She's a horrible, horrible, horrible person. Like, I was calling it for years. She's a liar, and she makes shit up, and she panders to her audience, and she's just a horrible person. But that said, I have an ongoing thing, and I mean, people from my audience that would be in the chat know this, but I have this ongoing thing that anybody that I have ever done a video about in any negative way that I have made money from, that I have offered them 3 months of free coaching, of which I would also sign an NDA, that I would never discuss it unless they did. I would never bring it up ever unless they did. Because my point is that, one, I've made money from talking about you, so I have no problem putting my money where my mouth is. And two, if you are a fat acceptance person and you decide you want to change and nobody else can help you, I will be the one. I've got like probably 24 clients right now that they all fucking hated me before they became my client. And then they said, like, I hated how you talked. I hated this. I hated that. And then they're like, and one day I almost passed out walking up a flight of stairs and I heard your voice. Like I have a very unique way of saying shit, I guess. But I'd help her. I'd help anybody. Like here's my thing. I don't care if you're gay, straight, black, white. I don't give a fuck what your nationality is. I have clients from all over the world, every type of fucking religion. I myself am atheist. Like I give no fucks about any of that shit. I just want people to get healthy. I have a knack for being able to do this and help people. And in America, I think it's kind of my fucking duty. I don't think there's anything more pressing than us getting our country healthy again. We cannot be a great country until we get healthy. To make America great again, we need to make America healthy again. And I say that all the time. I would help anybody, especially, and I would be absolutely thrilled to help Lizzo, even though she's a horrible fucking person. But I would be absolutely thrilled to help her because she has a large audience that would then parlay over to them, hopefully getting healthy, and it would have like a more shotgun effect. It would have a larger ripple. I mean, because there'd be large ripples anyway because she's big, but it would be like a large ripple effect, you know. But
it is a death cult, though.
It's a death cult. I say that all the time because first of all, they're actively dying. Like one or two of them dies every month. You know, like this fat acceptance person passed away. We don't know why. Like, well, they're 42 and they look like they had hypertension so bad that their eyes were about to pop out of their skull. I bet you they had a heart attack or a stroke.
Well, look how they treat people that try to leave the cult. Look what they did to Adele.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You know, like. They don't so you can't be happy for somebody else that loses weight. It went very much from just accept me for me. I remember when Tess Holliday was on the cover of on Cosmo, and then Piers Morgan asked her something. She was like, "My health is none of your business." Now I'll argue that she was right before then, but after 2020, everybody's health is everybody's business. Because if the government is going to try to oppress me based upon your fucking health. And the health of generalized population, because we're so fucking fat, we have so many immunocompromised people that we fucking that we can't fucking have our freedom. If they really feel that, then your ass better get fucking healthy. But beyond that, I just think that it started there because then it morphed into 2 years, a year and a half later, she was on the cover of Shape magazine saying 300 pounds strong and fit. Like they called Tess Holliday fit. Like she can't fit in a car, but she's fit. You know, are you fucking kidding me? And then now now it's just huge. Like how old are you? If you don't mind me asking.
Oh, 40. Just turned 40.
Okay. I'm 52, right? There was when I graduated high school, there was two fat people in my class. One was a legitimately fat football player who at the time was 300 pounds. And he was fat. Okay. He was noticeably fat at 300 pounds. Now that's just a dude. And then there was a girl who. But
notice how you said he was still on the football team. He was still playing sports fat kid.
Right. And then the girl. Now that I look back on it, I would imagine she was one of those people. She absolutely there was probably some home issues going on, but also. She had some facial hair, so there's probably some PCOS going on, and that's before they really had a way to treat it and diagnose and everything like that, and probably some hypothyroidism, all sorts of shit, right? But now it's everywhere. And we have 500-pound fucking people. It's insane. The largest, the circus fat people,
right?
60 years ago were 350 pounds. The circus fat people. Right now, that's 50% of Walmart. You know, and it just gets so we've gone so far over the tipping point, and that's the biggest problem. And I think people get fucked up with me about some shit where they're like, "Oh, you just want to be mean to people." You don't understand. This is unsustainable on a population level. Right. Well, we have reached the tipping point. There is going to be a mass culling in about 10 to 15 years. The wave of chronic illness, disease, and death that is coming is going to be fucking biblical. And I'm an atheist. You know, when I say that, that's the only reference I have. It's going to be a mass culling. We have people right now who have always been fat the entirety of their life. We have 30-year-olds that have never not been fat. Right? All the data, all the statistical data says that the longer you spend fat is actually the problem. Okay? There are people that are "Oh, I'm fat and I'm healthy." Give it a minute because your body can't remain healthy in a constantly inflamed state under serious amounts of pressure. If anything, if you have 100 extra pounds on you, there is the ejection fraction of your heart. The ejection fraction of your heart, not fracture, the ejection fraction of your heart That is how much blood your left ventricle pumps out into your body to oxygenate your tissue, right? And it's normally anywhere between 35 and 70%. 70% is just fucking killing it, right? 35%, anything lower than 35%, you're doing something called cascading. You're basically dying. You're in heart failure, right? And if you have 100 extra pounds on you, your heart can only beat so hard. It can only pump out so much blood. And normally when you have 100 pounds on you, your ejection fraction is actually towards the bottom end of the spectrum because you eat like shit. Like you're not healthy. You don't get good cardiovascular work, anything like that. Your cardiorespiratory system is actually very inefficient already. And you're in a constant state of inflammation, which is bad for your heart, bad for your lungs, bad for everything like that, right? So the ejection fraction of a person that is fat is much less, and they have to pump blood to more tissue. So that means the only choice your heart has is to beat more often, even while at rest. So now you have an elevated heart rate, even while at rest. And that only lasts so fucking long before your heart just says, fuck it, I can't do no more, right? So basically, and there's also the thing like the more ultra processed foods you eat, you're overloading your pancreas like to an incredible degree. Your pancreas is just having to, shoot out insulin in a crazy fucking fashion. Your tissue's getting insulin resistant. Every time you're at high insulin, you're not going to be losing fat. Your body's going to go towards the sugar into your tissues. It is just unsustainable. So we are at a stage now where a lot of people my age became fat in their adulthood, because most people my age weren't fat when they were adults or when they were kids. People in your age bracket, like they might have gotten fat earlier than people in my age bracket, but most of them weren't fat when they were kids, right? Most of them, like you had some fat kids, but it was very few. You had more than I did, but less, but not that much, way less than now, right? So what's going to happen is the longer you're fat, the less your life expectancy is. So a lot of people who are my age, by the time their children reach my age and they're dead because they're fat and they're not going to make 70, their children are going to be dying or in need of being on disability because they're going to be 50 some years old, have been morbidly obese the entirety of their life, and their body's going to be given out. So now we are going to see a massive plummet in not only life expectancy, which is just a statistic, so who gives a fuck about that, but the actual problem is on a population level, who's going to do the fucking work? Like, how is society going to function when people my age are dying off, or literally as frail as elderly people are right now? Like, if you are 50 years old and you're so fat that you have to go on disability, or you're immobile almost, or at least you have trouble with your ambulation, meaning you have a hard time walking. If you're in your early 30s or mid 30s and you're using a motorized scooter because you're so fucking fat, I don't understand why we're paying for your health care. Like, if you're not going to participate in health care, why should I have to fucking subsidize it? Because that's another huge unsustainable thing that we got going on right now, is that we, as the people, pay on the average $4.3 trillion a year total in healthcare in the United States. It's an astronomical number, right? So mind you, we are a country that is going to run a $2 trillion deficit this year and $33 trillion in debt. $1.9 trillion of the $4.3 trillion comes from tax money. The federal government is the actual largest payee of healthcare bills there is. The rest is through insurance and private pay, okay? So if you look at the statistics that even the CDC gives us, 90% of all healthcare expenditure and resource usage is from people with chronic illnesses and mental illness. A good 75% of all chronic and mental illness is avoidable or manageable by lifestyle mitigation. So we are paying somewhere around $3 trillion fucking dollars a year as a shared healthcare expenditure for people that eat too much, drink too much, and smoke too much. That's unsustainable. It's not only that, but it's unacceptable. That is literally unacceptable to subsidize. We are basically subsidizing the poor health of other people. Now, I always get people so pissed at me, like, well, should we just not give them health care? Listen, if you're 30 years old and you get type 2 diabetes because you eat like a garbage dumpster, we should give you 180 days to fix your shit. You'll be under your insurance for 180 days, get whatever you need, get healthy, lose the weight, figure out how to manage it through whatever. But after 180 days, if you have not figured out how to fucking deal with your own fucking illness that you gave your goddamn self, why should the rest of society have to fucking do so? One of the reasons why I'm so hard on the fat acceptance movement is because morbidly obese people are disproportionately burdensome to society, their families, and even the fucking planet. If you take a look at right now how they are.
I know, but this is what I was talking about earlier. When you're funny, when you're not trying to be funny, it's the way it comes.
They are
the
because if you think about it, they put more waste and more like, okay, so right now they're literally talking about like, climate change lockdowns. That's coming, right? They want to lock down for climate change and climate change this and climate change that, climate change this and climate change that. All the people that talk about climate change are buying beachfront property, but no worries. Well, if you eat, first of all, the food that's eaten to maintain morbid obesity is normally ultra-processed crap. Ultra-processed crap gets packaged, produced, and shipped around the fucking country. So the more you eat of it, the more you eat shitty food and the more you eat of it, the larger impact you have on the environment. There's more waste put into the environment and packaging and everything like that. There's more carbon thrown into the air from transportation and production. And a morbidly obese person themselves emits 20% more carbon at a minimum as a person who is of a lean nature, just by statistical speaking. So all these people that are talking about climate change should also be talking about unfattening people, but they're not going to, because that's not what makes money, and they need to pander to these people. I mean, we have pandered these people into thinking that they are actually like a protected class. I have seen so many people, like New York City just passed a law that on weight discrimination. Like, it's so fucking crazy. Like,
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they recently passed a law like on weight discrimination. Like, and like part of it is like you could get in trouble if like you hurt somebody's fee-fees. So
well, you still
I'm not going to New York.
Yeah, they'll pass that law that you can't discriminate on somebody because of weight, but you can discriminate against somebody that hasn't injected themselves with the experimental thing that doesn't work. But
yeah.
So all the stuff you said about how trying to figure out how I want to phrase this, they've made it so easy to be fat nowadays. Like athletes that I grew up with, there's people that I grew up with that were studs, that were straight up studs in high school, college, and now they are like by definition morbidly obese. And it's like, how the heck did it become so easy to become morbidly obese? So let me get a little tinfoily here. With everything that's happened over the 3 years, the fat acceptance, the whole death cult, driving everybody towards unhealthy lifestyles, all that stuff. And then the people at the top that are pushing this the most sort of have this idea that we're overpopulated. And that's the climate came from. So I got to ask, do you think this is by design, Alan?
I don't know. I don't know if it's a depopulation thing necessarily for a lot of them. I mean, there are like Bill Gates has openly said it. Like, I mean, I'll say that.
TED Talks, but if we do a good job with the vaccines, everybody's like, wait, what did you just say?
Yeah. But it's funny how we listen to Bill Gates about health. Like, objectively fucking unhealthy motherfucker, And he's like, don't eat meat, it's bad for you. Like, dude, you fucking got man tits and fucking look like you're about to die.
Shut the climate. It's like, well, we gotta go and make sure the farmland. Why?
I hear you. But I think it's more along the lines of the fattening of the cow. Like, so they can then harvest, right?
So we're dependent on them?
Yeah, there's multiple things about it. Like, first of all, big food loves it because they get to make money off people consuming 3 times more calories than what they should likely consume in a day, right? So big food loves it. That's why even like on YouTube, the advertisers are mostly big food, big pharma, right? And by the way, people watching on my channel, I'm not keeping this up on my channel because they're probably gonna fucking be pissed and strike this down. So you can come and watch it on his channel afterwards. But anyway, sorry, ADHD moment. But also, there's no greater consumer in the like. I've even seen like fat people talk about how they're like anti-capitalism, like. You are fucking capitalism. like you yourself consume all sorts of shit more than most people, right? And my thing is they consume more food, they consume more pharma, they consume more clothing, they consume more fuel and stuff like that for transportation. Like a fat person's car takes more gas with them in it than it would with me in it. It just does, right? It's just true, right? So they consume more. So there's that aspect. They consume so much pharma. 60% of the entire population is on at least one pharmaceutical drug daily. 40% is on 2 or more pharmaceutical drugs. So they don't want you fucking healthy. That's why the sick care system, that's why they don't cure nobody. That's why they just treat people. That's why they're also demonizing health. Like, I mean, I've heard so many times, like, fitness might lead to white supremacy. Mm-hmm. Like, out of my business partners, I'm the token cracker. Like I'm the token white guy, like Mark's Jewish, Sean's Iranian, and fucking Mike's black. Mike's not even just black, he's black. I mean, he's dark. And like, it's, I'm amazed that it's even spoken that way, but they don't want people healthy because we are not financially milkable to them. We're independent. Like they know they got us. Like this is no shit. Like this is why being morbidly obese. This is one of the statements I make that people don't seem to follow. The number of morbidly obese people we have in the United States is a national fucking security threat. And I'm not talking because we can't get enough people that can actually pass our military exams to get into our military. It is a national security threat because the pharmaceutical industry could gangster us at any fucking time. They could say, hey, we want you to pass this legislation and do this, or we're going to turn off the flow of pharmaceuticals for a couple months in America and see how you guys do. If the pharmaceutical companies and like Unilever and Nestle, the large companies that own all the because Pfizer and a bunch of other companies are owned by a larger company. I believe they're owned by Vanguard. Vanguard owns Pfizer and a few others, right? But if Vanguard and Unilever got together, they own most of the pharmaceutical companies. They could just say, we're going to turn off your pharmaceuticals. They could kill 50 million Americans in like 2 months. Like, easy. Like, people don't get their heart medication. People don't get their diabetes medication. People don't get their kidney medication. People don't get their antipsychotic drugs. People don't get all sorts of shit. They have us over a barrel. It is a national security threat. These companies could hold us fucking hostage. And nobody wants
to come to a halt. Nobody gets their Adderall.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Adderall is a whole other fucking thing. People shouldn't be given Adderall. Adderall is an addictive substance that we start children off on early.
You don't want everybody on speed from a really young age?
I think that's a bad idea, actually. Yeah.
All right, we got well, here, really quick before we get out of here, the thing that drives me the most crazy about the fat acceptance movements and the body positivity and like the airline thing is a perfect example. But it's such, I'm gonna use their term, it's such privilege.
It's absolute privilege.
Because I'm 6'6". You know who you never hear complaining about things not being the right size? Yeah. Tall people. Tall people don't. You think I don't complain that the 5'5" lady took the exit seat on Southwest I can't stretch out my legs. I can't. I actually do complain about that, Alan. If I'm going to be quite honest. Yeah. But my point is that tall people don't have any choice. We're tall. We can't go on a diet and be short and fit into society. It really is inconvenient a lot of the time for really super tall people. Can't do anything about it. Anybody can, if they wanted to, start living a healthy lifestyle.
Oh, anybody can. Nobody cannot lose weight. I say that. I hear that. I say that all the time. Like people like, no matter how little I eat, I can't lose weight. Like, you're a liar. Like, go on one of the survival shows. Go on alone. Go collect your money. Because if you can't lose weight, no matter not eating or not, that like you should admit yourself to the nearest genetic testing facility because you hold the key to solving world hunger if you can't lose weight. But you're talking about obese privilege. I say that all the time, and you bring up the airline thing, and I think it's funny because I've talked about this. I actually have a petition that people are signing out right now to have the the airlines and the FAA have a weight limit on commercial air travel. Either a weight limit or a waist to height ratio limit. And here's why, right? I have yet to see any airline show me any safety data done on the chairs, the seat belts, the seatbelt extenders, or evacuation procedures that includes 400-pound people. Any. So I'm going to get yelled at if my bag is not all the way under my seat at takeoff by the stewardess, because just in case we have to evacuate quickly, it could get in the way. But the person in front of me looks like she needs three seats and had to squeeze her way down the aisle. It's not safe, right? So what if we hit turbulence and she's sitting in front of me and she weighs 400 pounds?
No
Are you
joke.
telling me that chair has been tested for that amount of weight? I don't think it has. Show me it has. I'm in danger, right? It endangers everybody on the plane for evacuation procedures, for all sorts of shit. And I just find it amazing. We're at a stage where the fat acceptance crazies are asking, they want free seats. They want free accommodation to fly so they can have the same experience as other people. They're trying to say it's discriminatory that they don't get the same experience. Well, I didn't get the same experience of eating 10 times the calories I needed for the last 5 fucking years. But you don't hear me bitching. But in reality, and I really mean this, it is unsafe to have very large people on airplanes. It is unsafe for them. It is unsafe for everybody. Have you ever seen how they have to sit across 2 chairs, right? Have you seen that?
Yeah, it's
okay. So
yes.
And you've been on an airplane it's not a cushion there. That's a bar, right? It's a bar in between the chairs, right? Mm-hmm. So you hit turbulence, and that person who has probably shitty ass bone density because they eat like shit bounces up in the air, and their spine, their tailbone lands on the bar in between because they're so big that they're straddled across 2 seats. It's dangerous for them. It's dangerous for people around them. It's dangerous for the people in front of them and in back of them. It's dangerous for airline procedures. But instead of, the corporations having balls and saying look, if you want to fly, you're going to have to book your own commercial. You're going to have to book your own private plane. We can't safely put you onto a commercial flight because it's dangerous for you, dangerous for the other passengers. They're literally giving these people free fucking seats. I don't know how a 400-pound person gets a free seat when if my bag is 3 fucking grams over, I get charged an extra 50 fucking bucks. It's privilege. It's obese privilege. I actually use the hashtag obese privilege on a lot of my videos.
No, you talked about fuel, how much fuel something. That's all planes care about is weight capacity due to fuel and how far they can fly. And then somebody I'm already heavy because I'm tall. I'm 230 pounds. So, but somebody could be 400 pounds and pay the same ticket price as me.
It's insane.
It doesn't seem fair.
It's completely insane. It is. It's complete. My wife is 5'1", right? Athlete. She weighs 110, 115 pounds, right? Yeah. Why the fuck she should get a discount? Yeah. She should get a discount. If this is how it's going to be, she should get a discount, because if 400 pounds pays the same price as me, my wife should get a discount. She should at least get half off.
This might be a way to get people to lose weight too. Is just bring back shame too. Weigh people at the airport, make them get on a scale.
Well, I say this all the time. The absence of shame over actions is a huge problem. Because here's the thing: I don't shame anybody. People are you just fat shame people. Well, first of all, I can't shame you for something you are not in fact ashamed of. Okay. Yeah. Because the very next reaction I get is people say something about my being bald or my tattoos. I'm not ashamed of either of those things. I'm not ashamed of my appearance. So therefore you can't shame me for it. Right. People can talk shit. I don't give a shit. I don't fucking care, because I'm not ashamed. If I can say, yo, you're fat, you should lose weight, don't fat shame me. Well, that you just admitted that it's true. But that's a whole other story. However, to not feel shame over eating yourself to literal disfigurement, because that's what it is. You have eaten to the point where you're almost not in human form anymore. To not be ashamed of that is killing you. Okay. So if you're morbidly obese out there and you're upset by everything I've said, understand I'm not the one killing you. You're killing you. You should be ashamed of that shit.
There's no difference.
None.
Same. The person that eats themselves to death that can't get out of their house without help. Yeah. There's no difference between that person and the person that's passed out from fentanyl on the streets of San Francisco.
None. Absolutely none. It's death. It is.
All right, Alan, you are the best for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I had a good time, man. Thank you.
For sure. But let's why don't you give your stuff a little plug here? Why don't you tell the audience about No Morbidity?
No Morbidity? No Morbidity is our non-stimulant, non-thermogenic based appetite suppressant. You can get it from Ambrosia Collective. I've been using this product for about 2 years to help control my binge eating disorder. 4 patented ingredients, clinically tested human doses. And by patented ingredients, meaning we can make these claims. One of the ingredients is KSM66. It's a patented form of ashwagandha. It helps lower your cortisol levels, lower your stress levels so you can get better sleep, but also so your metabolism doesn't take the hit from stress and cortisol. It has thinogen in it. Thinogen is an amazing ingredient because it actually uncouples the protein 1 NAs from adipose tissue. So when you're in a caloric deficit, your body will go more predominantly towards fat stores than lean mass stores, even if you weren't taking it. So even if you just are losing weight without it, you would lose less muscle mass if you use No Morbidity. And it has Slimuluna in it, which is an amazing supplement based off of a succulent plant, a cactus. And it is incredible for appetite suppression. It helps blunt the biological mechanism of your stomach that creates ghrelin, that actually creates stomach hunger. So you feel full easier and you're not hungry nearly as much. So you can get it at Ambrosia Collective. It pays for itself. We've had a lot of people say that this pays for itself even more than the groceries that they save. Like they save more money on groceries than the actual cost of this supplement. So thank you very much for letting me plug it too. For sure. It sounds like gastric bypass surgery without the surgery. This No Morbidity plus our other supplement Alchemy, which helps take care of glycemic response of food and blood sugar regulation. It has berberine in it. It has an ingredient called NC2, which has been shown to blunt glycemic response, but also shown to control blood sugar levels. It helps take away any sugar cravings. So it helps, the two of them together basically helps remove the food noise. Like you don't constantly have that, and people that have trouble with food understand what I'm saying. That constant thing, like I want to eat, that kind of goes away. And then you don't get the cravings for sugar like you normally would without it. So the two of them together, we have had people get off of Ozempic and Wegovy and use these two supplements together and have better results on weight loss, but also feel much more comfortable because they have less hunger than what they had when they were on Ozempic or Wegovy, and they have no side effects. We're very proud of it. I love it. I wish I would have known the sugar thing because I just quit drinking Red Bull. You should be proud of me, actually. I bet you. That's awesome. Big deal. 3 weeks, dude, this week. But I wish I would have known. That probably would have helped me. I would have got some. Yeah, absolutely, dude. All right, Alan, where can people find you? I'm Alan Roberts on YouTube. Check me out at the MFing COO. That's the MFING COO on Instagram and Twitter. I'm on TikTok, but there's no need to follow me there because they ban me every other week. And I mainly post, I'm either live pretty much 6 days a week on my YouTube, which is Alan Roberts, or I am posting every day at the MFing COO on Twitter. I absolutely think that I still call it Twitter, even though it's X. I love Twitter. I love that he lets me say whatever the fuck I want because I say some crazy shit on there. So check it out. Thank you very much, man. And thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate it. Thank you for coming on. Chat, I'm so sorry that I wasn't interacting with you guys so much. I'm still trying to figure out how to interact with the chat and have a guest and not be all distracted and stuff. So you guys were very active tonight. Thank you, everybody, for joining. And I'll be live again tomorrow at 6:30. Alan, you're the best. Thank you so much. Real quick, to anybody in my audience, make sure you go subscribe to his channel, okay? And you can look it's called CaliBased, the episode 88 with Alan Roberts. Just search that in the search bar. And then you can go follow it. I'm deleting this from mine, but you can go rewatch on his. All right. All right. Thanks for the plug. Here, really quick, Alan. Before we end the show, every episode I got to read a joke from the greatest book I've written, The Truth About Chuck Norris. I'm here. Yeah. All right. So here, this is what we got tonight. I don't screen it. I just go and we're gonna see what we got. So, all right. Okay. Here we go. You ready for the joke, Alan?
All right. Sega made an arcade game once where you fought Chuck Norris. Every time you put a quarter in, the screen immediately displayed, you lose. It was Sega's most popular machine ever. And on that note, stay CaliBased.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Alan.